suckers. Deadbeat, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. You ain't a killer, boy, stop. I hear you yelling stacks on deck.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Big Llama Show. I'm the Big Llama. We are live. It's our Sunday night usual. Sunday night, 10 p.m. We are live with a Loki spoiler review, a spoiler discussion. I'm going to bring on Blackout AD in just a moment. But before we do, make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you become a member of the Llama Nation and make sure you hit that bell notification so that you know when we post videos. Again, we're going to do this Sunday series every week after the Loki episodes, myself and Blackout AD. And we'll make sure that we tell you again, this is all spoiler discussion. So if you have not seen the episode, please stop now, get off the live feed, go watch Loki and come back. Actually, stay on the live feed. Maybe no, just kidding. We need our traffic. Anyway, before we get started, before I bring Blackout AD, I just want to talk about something happening with our channel. We've got the Big Llama Show Reacts. We're doing some different types of reactions so that the channel is growing. We just did a Big Llama Reacts to the YouTubers versus TikTok fights, and it features a brand new llama, Little Llama, who is my son, and he's going to be doing other reaction videos and music reactions. We even did a reaction video to 645 AR, which was pretty hysterical. So if you're interested in that, check it out. Check it out on my channel. Again, that's the Big Llama Show. We're branching out. All right, let's bring in AD to the show. Welcome, AD.
What's going on? What's going on?
Nothing, man. Nothing. Listen, it's Father's Day. Let me shout out to all the fathers out there. I had a wonderful and awesome Father's Day, as you can see from the tanness that I have. I was outside. Mama Llama took care of me. She, made sure that I had breakfast in the morning with the kids. Got lots of presents. If you notice the new like and subscribe right behind me, that's a courtesy of Little Llama and Junior Llama. The Wu-Tang shirt, because they know I love the Wu-Tang. All Father's Day gifts. So I'm representing. Thank you very much to my family for making it a special Father's Day. And thank you for all of you fathers out there on the Llama Nation. I hope everybody had an awesome Father's Day and you're enjoying your night tonight and you're capping it off with the Big Llama Show. So anyway, that's my plug for Father's Day. AD, what's going on with you this night, man?
Man, having a good time. Excited to get to talk about Loki, man. It was a great episode this week. Happy Father's Day to you, and I like to like and subscribe.
All right.
Who's your favorite Wu-Tang member, by the way?
I think I'm a big Raekwon, but the Ghostface Killer, man, his lyrics are great. But Method Man is like the popular one, right?
Yeah.
But Raekwon has the lyrics, and then that album that he made with Ghostface was just amazing. The Wu-Tang, man, love those guys. All right, man, we're gonna get right into it because we got a lot to talk about. So we're gonna talk about Marvel's Loki episode 2, which again, spoiler warning for those of you who haven't seen Loki, or if you're watching this on a rebroadcast. We're gonna get into spoilers, heavy spoilers, and we're gonna have some images here where we'll definitely spoil episode 2 if you haven't seen it. Now, if you are watching and you are want to be part of the show, just hit us up in the comment section. We'll shout you out. We got a fan here. It says, OMG, I'm such a huge fan. And there was a pretty handsome lad when you reacted to the YouTubers and TikTok boxing match. So they really, really liked that video reaction. Keep those comments coming. If you're on live, hit us up, be part of the show. All right, let's get to the spoiler talk. AD, the episode just hit us with a bang. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, man?
I thought the episode as a whole, it continued from the momentum from the first one, because I think we said it last time, that was probably one of the better opening episodes to a series, and I think it just continued on. They answered a lot of questions rather quickly, to be honest. I mean, we got answers to a lot of stuff, like who the other Loki was, what the reset charges do, because they gave us a clear answer, and I thought it was pretty funny in the show, but we'll get to that. But yeah, I thought it was a great episode. I don't want to get ahead of myself.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, we got some time, but I think what this show is, and I love it because it's 6 episodes, so they got to cram a lot of information in 6 episodes. It's definitely jam packed. And there's a lot of story to tell in a 6 episode. I mean, 6 hours, you would think there's more than enough time to tell this story, but there's just too many factors. And to me, I think I love the recaps just before, get you primed and ready for the next episode. And again, it just picks up right where it leaves off. And I mean, jaw dropped. I mean, it starts off with a bang and doesn't let up. I mean, it was a great episode, just a great episode. All right, so it started off. They were at a Renaissance fair back in 1985. That's where we meet up with our guys, right? So a couple of funny things, and I'll let me know your thoughts, on this first scene. But from what I read and what I've been listening to, obviously 1985, little wink nudge to Back to the Future, where everything happens in 1985. There's also some pretty big comic book things that occurred in 1985. I'm not that familiar with them, but that's some of the theories that were going around. And then the funniest part is you and I talked about the He-Man trailer and how it used that 80s song, and I bet you the folks at Disney are pissed at the guys from He-Man for taking their thunder, because they used the same song in the same manner. And yes,
almost kind of a better way. I mean, that opening scene was fantastic. It showed to me. Let's set the scene. So it started off in Wisconsin, like you said, but I don't remember how it got to where the time variant police came. But it just showed. It basically was Loki, the Loki variant, the bad Loki, basically took mind control with just a touch of the temple of one of the time variant police, and then, like you said, I Need a Hero starts playing, and she starts destroying all the other police officers. So what we learned there was that this Loki can mind control and is pretty ruthless, because I'm pretty sure all those time police died.
Oh yeah, she took them all out. Like this wasn't that I wake up a little bit later. No, I think she snapped one of the dude's necks.
Yeah. It was kind of a brutal scene, but also with the mind control. So she clearly was controlling her after she touched her, but she was still in use. Oh, I say she, but she was still in use of her body, so she could still do other things while the mind control dummy is doing whatever she needs for her.
Right. I mean, it's a more powerful Loki than we've seen. With powers that we haven't seen in the MCU. I know those of you that know the comics really well probably aren't surprised by some of these powers, but for the layman like me who doesn't really up on the comics, I'm now going, well, what the hell are we going to do now? This Loki has some great stuff. I mean, some amazing powers. Just a quick timeout. I was shouting about Douglas Weber, man. Wu-Tang. He's representing the Wu. I know Doug, and he's a good guy. And glad you're on the show, man. Thank you for chiming in.
Shout out, Doug.
Shout out to Doug representing the Wu. All right. All right. Now, the good thing was that when they started the episode and they started introducing this mysterious character, which we know, and again, spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it, it eventually becomes what we're calling Lady Loki, right? There was a big reveal towards the end, but again, if you're watching this, you already know this. So again, but again, the way that they veil it, the way that they light it, and the way that it was shot, that first scene was amazing. And what you have is them taking hostages, setting up the scene, right? And that's I think where the show really sort of starts to make you think, why is she doing that? Why is this happening? And so Loki has to try to answer those questions.
I also wonder that, because after the mind control police officer took down the team, she kind of dragged her through the time door and like brought her with her. So I really, when I first saw that, I was kind of confused as to why. And I don't even think, do you think we got an answer to that? Why she brought her exactly?
Oh yeah. And so what happened is, I think this was setting the bait, right? Like
to get them to chase her,
right? Because I think even though Loki, because eventually Loki and the team show up to the Renaissance Fair. and Loki does sort of try to pull the BS, with them. What happens is he sees it. You're setting the trap. You're saying, "Come find me. Come with me, and I'll show you." And so that was that's a good, clever way to use Loki's, his intellect and his mind control. And I love the way that Owen Wilson's character Mobius just calls him out on his bullshit. Like, hey man, like there was a scene like they're looking at each other, and it's a believable Tom Hiddleston performance, and you're like, okay, I believe this. I believe this. And then Mobius is like, nah, man, you're full of shit. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
So I mean, so again, that's and then and what you were saying is they answer a lot of questions, right?
Yeah.
I mean, right off the bat. So, we find out about the Nexus events. We find out about the charges.
Yeah.
And then what happens if you get too close to the red line? That's a big. I think it was hinted at in episode 1, and then further explored in episode 2. But like that's what that is too, is in great movies and in great episodes of TV. There is always ticking time. If ever there's a suspenseful series, there's always a time frame or a time hack or something you have to do before. And so that to me is just great storytelling, and it gives you a running clock, which at the end of it, you're just like, what in the hell are they going to do when the clock starts running out, right?
Yeah. We first see Loki when he's like sitting at a desk all casual, like if he's part of the TVA. And this is where I'm kind of confused, like Miss Minutes. She kind of pops out of the screen, almost like a projection, but there's no light from the TV. I mean, from the computer. And every time she steps on something, it's kind of like a live action, like she's like making the noise, like if she has footsteps. So I'm kind of curious if she's like and I think he asked her too, like, it's like, can you hear me? Like, do you understand what I'm saying? And she's like, yeah, I can understand you. And I think he also asked if she's like real or a computer, and she said she's kind of both. So I'm kind of confused to that, and I'm excited to see what they do with her.
Yeah, I think that's one of those, and for those that are picking up Easter eggs and clues, that's the first sort of steps that you start to look and go, okay, there's more to this TVA than meets the eye. And I think one of the theories I saw was that the TVA might be the villain in this series, or some form of villainy, right? Because all things are not making sense now, right? I will say this: it's a thinking person's show. I mean,
for sure.
I mean, you could sit there and watch it all the way through and not think about anything. But if you're really into the series, or you're into the Marvel cinematic universe, you're wondering, how does this tie into everything? And
it goes
to
back
me,
to good storytelling.
Oh yeah,
good writing. It wants you asking more.
Yeah, and listen, and I think what you're getting at is Miss Minutes real, right? Is it part of his consciousness? What is it exactly? And that's the part of the series that you have to find out the answer. Like, that's something that hopefully gets. He's asking the question for a reason. They're no dummies at Marvel. They're setting it up so that you ask the same question.
Yep. Even at the end of the first episode, ominously, you hear her voice like, let us know if you had a good time. You know what I mean? Like, they're setting her up to be kind of creepy. And even Loki like tries to hit her, and she like dodges it. So it's like I feel like she is real in some capacity, but I just don't know if she's like the bad guy per se, or like maybe she's like their boss. You know what I mean? Like the boss you have to get to before the timekeepers. Like, I could see that being the case.
Yeah. Oh no. And what again with Miss Minutes and the very, I mean, this is just, it's too much for my little brain, man. My little brain is short circuiting, man. I can't keep up with all these theories, and I tell you, I'll be honest, man. I had to watch the episode again, and I did, and then I had to watch it through the lens of the new rock stars and these guys breaking down theories, because I just couldn't put it all together. Yeah,
there's way too much.
I mean, that's the one cool thing is, and I think what this show does is, again, it gives you just enough for the novice, and then it gives you the Easter eggs and treats for for the really serious comic book collectors out there, because they went through Loki's variants, right? Like, or the different Lokis that they've seen. And I know each and every one of them was broken down by different YouTubers as something that they've seen in the comics, right? I mean,
they showed a couple like actually pretty cool Loki variants. I mean, there was like a Hulk looking Loki,
right?
Like almost he got hit with the gamma radiation. There was like the Loki with like the blue giant's like skin color.
Oh yeah, the frost giant.
The Loki. Frost giant, yeah. There was that. There was a devil looking one, and then like a Loki that looked like he was like a Tour de France, which I thought was kind of hilarious.
Yeah,
like a Loki like riding bikes, winning championships.
Athletic Loki. But again, that's the nod to the hardcore comic book fans who have seen those variants before. Yeah. And so there's always something for everybody. Let me continue here. Let's see. Now, the one thing I would say is, we talk about the timeline, and I think we had talked about it before, but they show you now what those chargers do and how they do it, right? So there was a amazing scene at the end of the Renaissance Festival, right, where they set the charges, and then you can finally see it taking into effect and how it vaporizes or takes care of the timeline. So
we got the answer that it destroys the timeline. There's no more timeline after that. It doesn't reset it. There's no, like, when they call it resetting, they're just saying they're killing you, pretty much. Because even Mobius made that clear. Because I thought when they did like the first guy when Loki first gets to the TVA and they just zapped the dude and they said they reset him, I thought they would just like send them back to his timeline, but Mobius made it very clear that he's like, I'll just reset him myself, and it was in the way of like, I'll kill him myself. So they definitely, those reset charges definitely destroy whatever timeline that was. Like the same people that Loki seen in the first episode, they're no longer living for sure.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. That's what we were wondering is, what happened to those people? Did they just like get and I think we said it right. Did they get the Men in Black mind wipe?
Yeah.
Or is it, are they gone, or what happens? Do they not remember, or they just rewind everything? I thought maybe it was like the time stone, where how when the time stone was used, you just hit the rewind, and
everything could go back.
It goes right back to that point, and then those people just don't show up. But apparently, no, you get vaporized if you see a time variant. So, one thing we can talk about, and this is the part of the show that gets really intriguing, is Mobius's relationship with who's this, Ravonna? Is that
Ravonna? Yeah, Ravonna. I forgot her last name.
Right, and so now you start to see she's got some skeletons in her closet, right? Like she's got. She said, "What? You're not the only guy, right? The only agent I have working for me."
That was kind of weird because it seemed like Owen Wilson's character Mobius was very like jealous of this other agent. Like if they definitely cross paths and they can either, I don't know if they don't like each other or they're in competition with each other. Maybe trying to get like Ravonna's attention, or I don't know. But in the comics, Ravonna was, I think, she was like dating one of the timekeepers, probably the main one. Not timekeeper. I'm sorry, Kang the Conqueror. She was dating Kang the Conqueror.
Right.
So I think her role in this is even bigger than they're leading on these first couple episodes as well. That's the thing. There's so many ways they can go. So many things they're throwing in here where it's like maybe not. Here's a nod to, because Kang the Conqueror is supposed to come in like Ant-Man and the Wasp, like the next one. Right.
I mean, that's the thing, and I know we've got a lot to cover, but one theory, I know so much to cover, but one theory I heard and I read and I saw, and it made sense when once you hear it out loud, is that the TVA's location, right, that it might be in the quantum realm. because there's, and I'm always honest. I'm not the one who made up this theory. I just read it. That they're saying, okay, there's a in episode 1 when Loki's sort of frozen and they slap him in the face, right, and his face is all thing. She says time works differently here, and then they loop it back to Ant-Man and talking about how time works differently in the quantum realm, and that a couple of hours to him was 5 years, and so if this theory is correct, I mean, it makes total sense, and you can do a lot. And there was somebody who found an Easter egg in Ant-Man and the Wasp that showed what looked like the TVA in the background when he was traveling through the quantum realm. So that to me just opens up. And obviously the title of the new Ant-Man and the Wasp movie is Quantum Mania or something like that. So just like the tie-ins. I mean, look, they've got us talking here about this show, and there's several hundred YouTubers who are doing the same thing. And this is the genius of this Disney series. And the way it's put together, storytelling is just, captivating.
We honestly haven't even talked about the episode. We've been just talking about what can happen from what we see from this episode. It's like that, like you said, great story writing, great storytelling. And the fact that we can have this dialogue, especially like week to week, now that we're doing this week to week, it gives us so much content. Like I'm right now, I'm trying to think of like how the episode went, but then every time we bring up something else, I'm like, oh, but wait. And then even that theory right there is like, damn, if that was the city that was in the back, because I do remember that. And was it Ant-Man or was it the Avengers when he came out?
It might be the Avengers because he was traveling.
He was coming out, I believe. But yeah, so that would make sense because the time does seem slower. And I think even in this episode, they kind of like they give you a little bit more insight into Mobius. Like he clearly loves jet skis. So I do want to see Owen Wilson on a jet ski at some point in this. But yeah, he made it seem like he doesn't know how long he's kind of been there in a way, because Loki asked him like, how long have you been here? He's like, it's hard to say. Like it what I mean? They said the same thing. Time works differently.
Right. I think that was his answer, right? Yeah. Time works differently here. And so that if that's the recurring theme, this they totally could be in the quantum realm. And that's
for sure.
Again, that opens up huge storylines for Ant-Man. And then that again, again, you can go 100 different ways with it. But you're right. We've been theorizing, and we haven't
even talked about the episodes.
So let's talk about so again. There's this banter between Ravonna and Mobius, and there was some discussion about the other analyst working for him, and there was some weird exchange. So the cup thing.
There was already. She was like, "Hey, use a coaster," and there was already a cup spot there. And Mobius, this is where there's two clues where it seems like he's kind of jealous. It was this one. He's like, I didn't even do that. Like, and then he puts the coaster there, and then she gives him some paperwork. But this is after Loki kind of like tricks him and tries to like mess with him a little bit. And we learn later why he did it. But so I think they're having dialect about like continuing to work with him. He's like, just give me one more chance, and that's where he said, I'll reset him myself. I'll take him out myself. And he signs the paperwork, and he says something about like, oh, you must really like. I think he like mentioned like you must really like the other agent or something like that. So there's something between it. So it makes me wonder if he's a variant of him.
Oh, yep, and that's another theory too. Is Mobius, right? Is just another Mobius that she likes better, right? The different version of him. But what's funny, and you mentioned it, right? The whole jet ski thing.
Yeah,
it blew up on the internet. It's the dumbest. I say the dumbest things, but the dumbest things just blow up all of a sudden. Now there's memes of Owen Wilson on a jet ski, and everyone wants to see that. And if we don't see that, then the fans will riot. So, but that's the charm of Owen Wilson's character. I mean, I think he, and I'm not going to knock Owen Wilson. I think he makes great movies, and I haven't seen some of his more serious stuff, but he's putting in a pretty heavyweight performance here because there's a lot of nuance to what he's doing and how he's saying things. And honestly, the first episode, my kids and I joked, we're like, we want him to say, wow, and do his little voice, right? And by midway through the episode, I'm convinced this is who he is, right? I'm convinced of his character. And now in episode 2, I'm not even questioning it. I really feel like, he's Mobius, and I'm following along. But where it looks, where his performance really, really gels is even after the Ravonna scene, which was a great scene.
Yeah.
When him and Loki do the good cop, bad cop thing.
Yeah.
That was just fun to watch and fun to see both characters' wheels turning, because
their banter back and forth is really good. Even Tom Hiddleston's performance this episode was just as good as the first one, because after Ravonna and Mobius talk, basically they show Loki going to like I guess it would be considered the law library, I guess, of the TVA, maybe.
Right.
He was just asking for files on like the timekeepers, and just trying to get information on TVA and everything. And the lady was like, definitely not into him. It was a kind of a funny scene, because he said hello. He comes up to her, says hi, and she literally didn't acknowledge him until he rang the bell. And he just taps the bell. She finally acknowledges him. He asks, hey, can I get the files for like the timekeepers? She clearly wasn't going to give it to him. She's like, that's classified. He's like, oh, well, what can I get? And she just gives him a stack of Loki files. And in the Loki files, he's going through, and did him and Mobius speak about the files before? I don't remember that.
It might have been mentioned. I don't recall, but it may make sense. He's got to try to find the answers to these issues, right?
But he flips through, and what he finds the Ragnarok, because remember, this Loki doesn't live to that point, but or he hasn't lived to that point, and so he sees that Asgard is destroyed, and the same performance as when he saw like his mom die. You could see the emotion on his face, and I thought that was brilliant. But in seeing the Asgard files, it gave him the clue of maybe the other Loki variant is hiding in Doomsday events, because no matter what, the world's going to end, and no matter what you do, it won't affect the timeline. It won't create a branch variant, so they won't find them in there, which I thought was that kind of blew my mind. I was like, damn, like I wouldn't even have thought of that. If they kept this going for a couple episodes, I wouldn't even have thought about where or how the variant's hiding from them, because clearly they could see everything, right?
Right, and what you think is the most important thing, which is how do I find this Loki variant, right?
Yeah.
It gets answered in a couple of minutes, but your mind is blown. You're like, wait a second, and like you were saying, he's reading the when he finds out what happens to his home in Ragnarok, and the performance is just so subtle that you can see it in his eyes, and you can see the pain that's there, but instantly he figures out this thing. And what I love is the comedic stuff, right? So it shifts right into slapstick comedy.
Yeah.
Not slapstick, but I mean something just a comedic performance, where you're invested. You go, oh man, he's lost his family. He just found out about Ragnarok, and somebody's like, oh, so you found out? Yeah, it's fine. It's no big deal. Let's just talk about this. And he like moves it forward.
Yeah.
And then the salad scene, like, if you, and I don't think it was a long cut. I think it was, chopped up, but
yeah,
the banter and the writing in that scene were so like, great on timing, because it was like, he's like, all right, pretend this is a Nexus event. No, that's my salad. Hey,
that's not Asgard. That's my lunch.
Right. I mean, and that's the thing. It goes from very serious stuff and heavy topic to this light scene. But even in that scene, if you didn't realize what he was saying, it's a dumbed down version of what his explanation. But I found it riveting. I was like, oh man, it was funny, but at the same time, I'm still okay. I get now what he's saying, but I still wasn't there. And then they went to Pompeii, like the time jump, and I was like, oh, okay. Because it was an apocalyptic event. I'm thinking apocalyptic is the end of the world.
Yeah, but this was what I'd never heard of the Pompeii event in real life, but I guess it was just an explosion from a volcano, and like the ash and the smoke killed like a population around it.
Yeah, so famously, you can still find remnants of people who were stuck in the ash, still to this day. Some are preserved, some, but it was a huge thing. So when I saw Pompeii, I knew it was the a volcanic eruption and the annihilation of that city.
Mm-hmm.
But what helped me understand was I kept thinking apocalyptic was end of the world scenario. I'm like, how many times can you end the world?
Yeah.
And they explained it to be these series of events, right? So it made sense in the sense of the story for me. But I think, again, his performance on this, going from just regular, explaining it to madness, right? Open up to the goats and, run away. And then the Pompeii actual event happens. So,
and that shows Mobius that his theory is correct, and that the Loki variant was definitely hiding in some of these, I guess, apocalyptic events. But even then, I was kind of confused on to. Actually, go ahead.
No.
I lost my train of thought.
No, that's fine, man. It's fine. So again, that event sets it up for the next set. So now it's a matter of, okay, which event is the Loki hiding in, right? So that was a great segue to the next scene. And that's what, again, the story is so tight that there's not a moment you can waste. And so when they do take a few minutes to explain or do exposition on why we're looking at this, as soon as it's done, they're moving quickly to the next.
And this episode was like 15 minutes shorter than last week's episode, so
right.
They had a little bit less time to flesh it out.
Yeah, and listen, it was full of action. I think some complained online that there was a little bit too much talking, but you needed that. You needed the discussions.
I thought honestly all the talking was helpful and pushed the story forward. Because without that, we wouldn't have without the salad scene, we wouldn't have got the breakdown of what he was actually thinking, because he just was reading the files and then they go into the salad scene, which I did think the salad scene maybe took a little too long, because he kept pouring like salt. Like there's a couple times, even I think there was definitely like a laugh that Tom Hiddleston got Owen Wilson to laugh, like that wasn't supposed to be there, for sure.
Yeah, it was like out of place. It was like, what? And then we move on to so that we figure it out, and then they do some investigative work, which shows them working together, trying to figure out this timeline, and then we do a future jump, right? So we're going to the future. But one thing about the future is, I know there's a lot of significance to the future and what timelines, and we're going to talk about what timelines they're resetting, because there's a whole scene about them resetting certain timelines. Yeah. But before we do, again, this is what we were talking about before, that these were the timekeepers. One of them was supposed to be Kang the Conqueror, right? And then Ravonna is one of the things that a couple people noticed is that there's some scenes where the statues, if you look at them, the one in the middle is always doing something different than the other two timekeepers. And that's sort of hinting at maybe this timekeeper isn't what they seem that they are. Yeah. And so again, there's so much good information, so many Easter eggs.
So I don't think Kang the Conqueror is a timekeeper, but the structure of the dude's the middle timekeeper's face, right, in the judge quarters, is structured like the actor that's playing Kang the Conqueror. So I think that's where people are theorizing that it might be Kang the Conqueror, and that could be why the face is different. That could be their little twist, because the face right above her looks like the actor that's gonna play Kang the Conqueror in the Ant-Man movie. So that could be the twist, and which leads me to think, like, do we see him in this as like maybe even like in the last episode after credit scene?
Yeah, it would be one of the, I think they know how to lead you into the next movie, or how to keep you theorizing. I think you'll get like a my guess, like a Thanos type cameo,
Yeah.
where it's just sort of a turn and you know who that character is.
Yeah, maybe Ravonna like walks into his chamber and like says something. Yeah.
Right, and then fade to black. Right, and then you're just like, then you're like, oh God, why'd you end it on this one? You know? All right, let's see. Let's keep moving along here.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, so we're going to get to the charges, right? But before we do, let's talk about. All right, so they figure out where the Loki variant is, and Alabama of all places, right? Getting hit with was it Category 8 hurricane?
Yeah, which it looked brutal. It did look brutal.
Now, listen, we're from Florida. I know you've gone through hurricanes, and I'm still here. If
the fact that it's Category 8 and it's in Alabama is kind of wild.
So, I looked at that funny because at first I was like, at first viewing, I was like, okay, Category 8, that seems ridiculous, but move along. And then second viewing, I started to think, okay, how would Floridians react to a Category 8 coming their way? Which means that there was a Category 6, 7, and 8 that showed up at some point and was was found out to be that much destruction, So, the Florida guy in me, a Florida man, just kept thinking like, okay, what in the world would I do? But it makes total sense. It's in the future. And this was the small hint. And this is just, I like to look at some things from a political lens, and, sometimes storytelling will go there. A lot of hints to climate change and a lot of hints to saving, why are we doing what we're doing? I read a couple theories and it didn't make sense. It was a bit of a stretch, but that's something that can be peppered in there. And
I mean, this is what, like almost 20, 30 years in the future, 30 years, 29 years in the future. So like, that's actually a good pickup. I didn't even pick that up.
Yeah, no. And so that's what I said. Sometimes I look at it from a political lens and I go, okay, well, are they trying to give us a message? And someone had mentioned, and I had watched a couple videos where somebody had said this could be their one way of just peppering in climate change as one of the central themes. One theory is that the Loki variant is trying to save the environment in some shape or form from this, but it seemed like a stretch to me. But
yeah,
I could see if it goes that way. All right, so we go into this metal wall thing. I forgot what it was called. I don't know if I have it here.
I forgot what it was called either.
Yeah, it's like a huge, Walmart, Amazon type store, and here we are, right? The TVA and Loki are hot on the heels of the Loki variant, and the Loki variant pulls that same stuff, starts shifting into people's bodies, right? And
they broke up before that. They broke up, like they walked in. Mobius was like, "Hey, Loki, come with me," and the main officer was like, "Nah, he's staying with me," because this is already after the Wisconsin thing where he kind of effed him over. And like I said, he explains it earlier, but he tells the Loki variant that he basically helped her get away. You know what I mean? He's like, I held them up for you. Like, you know what I mean? Like if he did something good, that was just him trying to weasel his way in there. But I didn't understand why he was like, he did seem like he was stalling in the beginning. Now, when you look back at it, it's like, oh, he was stalling. So he answers why he was stalling. But the power goes out because obviously it's a hurricane.
Right.
And they split up. And then how did it was just a random person that walked up to him, and I think it was like B-15 is her name.
Oh, yeah. And that was the Loki variant taking over that person's body, right?
Which I thought it was dope because that person touches B-15 and then takes control of her. So not only does the Loki doesn't need to come in contact with the person to take control of them, which is kind of a OP power if you really think about it. Right.
And then Loki recognizes it right away and introduces himself and like, hey, nice to meet you now. So let's move on here. And that's the fun part is he can see it. He can see through the illusion or through the magic, so to speak. and and then we get a reveal, right? We get a reveal of who this Loki character is, and it's none other than Lady Loki, as we would call her.
She didn't like the Loki name.
No,
she did not like that. She's like, ugh, don't call me that. So I wonder what they're gonna call her.
Well, I think in the credits she's listed as Cherie, and it's a.
Is this Cherie or Sylvie?
Sylvie. I'm sorry, you're right. Which I believe is a. It takes possession of Loki's powers, right, or something like that. I had read that. But again, this and listen, here's the one. I do have a bit of a gripe.
Okay.
And I tweeted this out because I was pissed. I hadn't watched the episode yet, right? And again, I want to go. We had theorized that it might be Lady Loki, and you had mentioned it last time when we talked. And me, I'm trying to avoid spoilers. I'm just trying to, do a little research before I watch the episode, but I'm not trying to figure out what happened. Yeah. And I see this on somebody's post. I mean, this image right here goes right on somebody's thumbnail. Talking about.
I wonder what that could be. Spoiler warning. That's hilarious.
Like,
did he even cover her face?
Didn't cover her face. Didn't say nothing. Didn't say, It was just more like Loki 2 spoiler talk, spoiler warning, and this is the image I see. And then I went on Twitter, and then there were 3 or 4 people posted this same image, and I'm like, oh great! Now I know there's a Lady Loki, or some form of it. And I was pissed. I went and I sat down with the family to watch Loki, and I told them, I was like, I'm pissed off because I know a critical detail about the show, and it didn't ruin it for me. It didn't. It just killed that that reveal. But
that's the only thing that sucks about it coming out at 12 o'clock, because people are gonna watch it before you even. If you know what I mean, if you live a normal, I'm up at the time. But if you're like sleep when it comes out, you're gonna see the spoilers on your timeline. It's gonna be hard. It's hard to avoid them.
And some people are like, wait till Friday. Listen. Don't put spoilers. Let's just say Loki discussion.
Yeah.
Listen, if we had put in our thumbnail this image, right, that said Loki spoiler discussion,
I bet
we'd be doing the same jerk move.
I bet you the clicks are crazy though. If you're the first one to spoil,
yeah.
You're the first person to put it on the thumbnail, the clicks are crazy.
Yeah,
for sure.
So I got beef with whoever did that. You, whoever you are, you're a killjoy. You're an asshole, and I can't stand you. Stop doing that. The same thing is happening with the Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah,
I can't take that anymore. I mean, every day there's a new. When will the trailer drop? Who cares, man? Just like when it drops, then put out your thumbnails. But everyone's got a thumbnail. Now, I will admit, I have a thumbnail ready.
Ready to go?
I have one ready to go so that I can do my reaction from wherever I am and just post it right away. But I ain't gonna post it until it's ready. I was almost like I was gonna do it on Twitter and just post the thumbnail and say. No Way Home reaction and see if anybody would click on it.
Click on it.
Then I'd be a jerk for doing that. All right, so let's get back to the Loki discussion. That was a good quick rant. So now the great thing that happens in the episode, right, is okay. So there's this exchange with Loki. We find who Lady Loki is, and all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, before they even meet her, she sees them on like the security camera. She sets like a 20-minute timer, and this is when they first enter the building. So by this time, it has to be, I'm thinking, like 10 or less minutes, and they have their little banter back and forth. And Loki's like, "Oh, so you're a version of me," and she's like, "No, it's more like you're a version of me." So that I thought that was kind of telling. But then. You want to tell them what happens when the timer runs out?
Oh my God! So, well, listen. First of all, there's a sense of dread, right? Mm-hmm. because you're not sure what's happening. I thought at first, and this was when I first watched it, and I got it after the like a couple of minutes after they started showing what happened. I thought she set off the chargers right then and there.
Yeah.
To kill that timeline of where they were, and that would erase everybody in there. But what I didn't realize is that she has the portal, and sent these charges to different points in time.
We didn't even mention that when she, in the opening scene, when she took mind control of the TVA agent that she brought with her through the portal, she took her time controller, and that's what allowed her to open the time doors. And that was a big point for that, because that's exactly what she used the time doors to loop the reset charges. But that actually would have been a sinister thing if she would have just destroyed the timeline right there.
But and I was like, that's why I didn't understand. I was like, oh, she set the 20-minute timer, and then it looked like she had set them off, and I go, oh my God, she's about to wipe out everything in this timeline.
The amount of reset charges she had was 10 plus. Like it was a lot of reset charges. That was a superstore, and it filled like every aisle pretty much.
Right, and that's what I'm saying is, to me, I was filled with like dread. I was like, holy shit, she just went nuclear on these guys.
Yeah.
How the hell are they going to get out of this? And then that's what I'm saying. Fast forward to going back to the TVA, and you see the branches from all points in time, and that's when I jaw dropped.
Yeah, it looked like the sacred timeline was just getting dispersed into different timelines, and it was like I said, multiple, at least 20. I mean, they had a list. There was like a list of like past events. This right there, exactly that list. But like you can see Asgard, Vormir. I saw Rome, Italy. There's a lot of like even subtle that has nothing to do with Marvel, but just actual life events that you could catch. There was Ego the planet. So Ego was there. Yeah, she sent it to different times and different places all throughout the Well, I guess essentially creates the multiverse almost, huh?
Right, because there's no way they can stop the red lines from happening.
No.
So
not at that rate.
No,
because even Mobius said in the beginning of the episode, you have to physically be there to stop it, like head on. Like you have to go to that point and stop it. So
right. And that's where now again, I was at Theory Central at the beginning of the episode, and as I'm watching it, I'm in shock. I'm like, oh, this is happening. And then the charges go off, the timeline starts splitting. There's that ticking time clock that I was telling you about in the beginning. Now there's a sense of dread. Like, how are you going to get to all of these charges? Yeah. And you're not.
No.
There's no way you're going to get there. And I think she's not erasing variants. She's erasing existing timelines.
I don't even think she's erasing. I think she's just creating different timelines, because the reset charge took away the red line. But this one was creating red lines. So I don't know. Right. I don't necessarily think she did it to destroy the timeline. I think she did it to break up the sacred timeline. Yeah. And one theory is that she knows how to get to the timekeepers, and this might be her way of getting to the timekeepers. Or this threat is so big that only the timekeepers can stop it, and it forces their hand and pulls them out to where she can get to them. Right. I see that too.
Right. I mean, now what the theories are obviously is if she goes to Vormir and creates a different timeline there, is Black Widow gone? Is Gamora gone? Right? Did these things get impacted? Asgard, did they save something in Asgard? Right? Did they stop Ragnarok? I mean, this is what good storytelling does. Is it creates these. It's in my brain. It's like it's embedded in there. I'm now theorizing about it. I'm thinking about this stupid show. Long after I've watched it, I can't wait to see what happens on Wednesday. But I mean, this is and I will say top-notch storytelling, top-notch acting. Really, nothing wasted. Nothing wasted in the episode.
You had 36 minutes, and it was. From the start to end, even if, like you said earlier, people were complaining about too much talking, I think there was a perfect balance of action and talking, because you got 2 action scenes at the beginning and at the end, and then you got all the information you needed. Because like even through this conversation, I was just like, oh yeah, they did mention like Mobius did mention this, and oh yeah, she got the time controller from the first cop, and that's probably what completed her plan and what she needed for that. You know what I mean? So they did well. They did really well with this episode, and it leaves you with more questions than you started the episode with, because they answered the couple questions we had last week, but now I have even more questions. Like,
right.
is she good? You know what I mean? Is she doing something good?
Right, and then now there's a cliffhanger, right? So again, the timeline gets broken. You're in complete shock, and then Loki does a Loki thing. He follows her, right, and he leaves with her. And so I know the TVA thinks that it's Loki double crossing them, and who knows? Right now, you're left to speculate.
I think he. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead.
I think he. His face again. His facial acting. His facial expressions though kind of showed like he didn't want to, because Mobius was running. Obviously, it's like a high intensity scene. She has a time door. She walks through the time door. Time door stays open, which leads me to believe she wanted Loki to go, or she knew he was going to come, because Mobius is running down and he turns, looks at Mobius, and he has a kind of like, damn, I don't really want to F you over right now, especially because they had, like I said, like you said, good banter through the whole episode. They you could tell they're kind of like becoming friends or gaining respect for each other, either one. And so he kind of looked like he didn't want to go, but then he goes through the door and it closes immediately, so it led me to believe that she either wanted him to go or she knew he was going to come. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think, and this is just, again, I love to I look at this again. I always say, little brain here, because I don't like to do a whole lot of thinking on these things, but I do harken back to the beginning, the Renaissance Fair episode. I think you ever watch a movie where they, in the first scene or the first act, they pretty much tell you, they're going to tell you how it ends.
Yeah,
I think that's exactly what happened. It was sort of them explaining to you as the audience, like, this is what she's doing, and it's a trap, right? It's a trap. She took a hostage. It's a trap. And Loki sort of understands how she's thinking. I think what that scene does is it puts you in Loki's mindset to say he knows this character and he knows what this character's thinking. And so that gives you the real ability that he's going to figure out what she's doing. But when at the end, he goes through the time window with her, you start to think, does he really know what she's doing, and is this part of his plan, or
is it part of hers?
Is it part of hers? And so now it's who's one-upping who, right?
Yeah.
Is it the new Loki variant, or is it Loki that has the upper hand? And what is the end game for them? And that's
it almost feels like they're putting like which one's smarter or which one's more clever, because she seemed very intellectual. She seems like she has this already thought out, and she kind of seems like she's like 4 or 5 steps ahead of like even the TVA right now.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. So now we're left to theorize, what are Loki's motives, right? What is his, motivation for following the variant? What's he going to do next? And, honestly, this next episode is a crapshoot. I don't know where it's going to go. I'm left with more about thinking about the timeline and how they severed the timeline than anything else. Not that I don't care where Loki goes, but that's where my head's at. Like it's almost like it affected me. Like my timeline got screwed up. What's going on with my timeline? But I do think next episode is going to be a lot of like exposition and a lot of like learning about her backstory and kind of maybe learning her motives a little better, because that it seems like Loki's very good at like trying to get maybe this is a trickster in him, but he gets comfortable with people and gets people to talk, and that's another thing. It's like she might be the same way. I mean, she's a variant of him, so it's like there might be a lot of like back and forth and a lot of explaining this episode, because this past episode was a lot. You know what I mean? Like what they did with the timeline, especially because if they don't fix it by next episode, then I personally think this is what causes the multiverse, and this is where we start. This is the beginning of the multiverse. But right.
Yeah, I really don't know.
Now the big thing, is and this is now where we go when we get to this is the second half or second act of the thing. If you're thinking of it as a 6-hour movie, we've just hit the first act going into second, and so this is where it will slow down, I think, to give you some time to breathe and explain, because you've got to now process a lot of what's happening, and they've got to start tying up loose ends before they get to the next. I think the last 2 episodes are going to be just jam-packed, them flying through a lot of things. But these next 2 episodes, I think, will give you the foundation of, okay, this is where we're going and what we're gearing up for. And in true, Marvel fashion, and the fans probably want a big cameo of some sort, or they want to see Kang the Conqueror or something,
With WandaVision, I kind of doubt a cameo. It doesn't seem like they're trying to do that right now.
Well,
as much as fans.
Yeah, it's a fan thing. It's not anything that has to do with the show. So
no.
And my son, who little Llama, it's a running joke now. His theory is John Krasinski is going to show up somewhere in the show. John Krasinski will make a cameo as Mr. Fantastic, and I've told him that they're far away from that. But every time he tells me, let's look for an end credit scene, John Krasinski showing up, and I said, no, I don't think that's happening, man.
I don't know, man. They got to set up the Fantastic Four at some point, because I think they already announced their movie. No, I don't think they announced it, but they kind of like already mentioned that they're in production. Yeah, they're
going to start hinting, and I think they're going to start. I think this multiverse and the way that this works, I don't think it's going to be one of those events where maybe they're setting up like an end game event, right? This is the beginning of this, this trilogy, this big, formation of movies. So it will culminate in the end of the multiverse or something. But in this end, you're going to have all of these offshoots. You're going to have the X-Men and the mutant gene.
I do think the sacred timeline that they're speaking of is going to get destroyed by the end of this. Whether it's from what she just did, or they fix that and then it blows up in some other way, or even like, I don't know, man. There's so many ways, because Loki could be the one that could destroy it, like our Loki. What if the ultimate flip would be making him bad, because they're having us follow him and making it feel like they're giving us a lot of like moments where he feels, you can see like he's feeling these emotions and stuff, but like he's still the 2012 Loki, which still has bad in his heart. So it's like he could be the bad guy at the end of the day, or we could get what we said earlier, the TVA being the overall bad guys. So many options, man.
I think, and this would be amazing if they made Loki the ultimate bad guy, and he betrays the TVA and he betrays,
in Loki fashion. You can't have a Loki show without him doing some Loki stuff.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Like if you think about it, right? I don't know if Tom Hiddleston is signed on to do more movies or anything. This may be his swan song, right? Like, okay, I'm done. Why not have this character go out with a bang, right? Like huge. And Loki, in true Loki fashion, is the architect of what happens next. He's the guy who makes everything happen moving forward, and he's gone. And you'll curse the name Loki for the rest of the times you watch these movies. But that would be great. And to me, that's how you subvert expectations. That's how you keep the fans sort of thinking about the characters. But not for a cheap, heel turn, right? This ain't WWE wrestling. We don't need them to do a cheap heel turn and hit the variant with a chair over the head. We need it to be a very smart turn, and with reasons that we can now understand. But again, who knows, right? He can be known as the hero moving forward, and there could be some flexibility for him. But we'll see what happens. Now, one thing we didn't talk about, and I would be remiss if we didn't talk about it, is what happened at the TVA when the timeline was screwed over. Is they looked like they were preparing for something. They didn't look like, they were freaking out, right? Everybody was, but Ravonna looked like she was getting ready to do something. The TVA was assembling its force. So my understanding, or my theory is the Lokis are coming. The Loki variants are coming that way, and I think it's to meet with the timekeepers or to figure out how to meet with the timekeepers, because they're preparing for something. Either the timekeepers are coming down to check out what happened, or they're preparing for this protocol. I'm sure there's.
So you're thinking the Lokis are coming to the TVA itself?
I think so. I think with that they've got total control.
I'm thinking it's more like a code red, like the timelines because think about it now that what Mobius said, they have to go to each of these red lines, these offshoots, and stop it at the source. So I mean that's probably going to take all their troops to. I mean there was a massive amount of. I mean they didn't specify how many reset charges she sent out, but the list that was going was quite long and it was all over the place. So I'm thinking maybe they could go, they could try to dispatch it like that. But also, I mean, the last time before there was a sacred timeline, there was a war on the time. So, you know what I mean? So they could be preparing for that as well, like another timeline war.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's do this. I think we've got any final thoughts on Loki? We do have one more small topic we can talk about, but any last thoughts on Loki or anything that you're thinking about that maybe we haven't covered, man?
No, I just think this episode was another good step. I mean, another great episode, really. It didn't take any step back. It answered the questions like we stated. It gave us more questions. It gave us a little bit more of an understanding of our Loki, a little bit more understanding of Mobius. So I think they did a really good job for the second episode, and I'm excited to see what the series brings.
Yeah, me too. Like I said, I'm hooked. I'm in, and again, looking at this from different lenses, my wife is hooked.
Yeah,
like she's invested now into this storyline, and she's casually watching it. She's not breaking it down with me or you. Yeah. She's just casually watching, and she's hooked. She can't wait till the next episode.
So even from last week when she said it was like it could be too much, she found it okay this episode.
Well, I think what happens is that like I was saying, there's a time bomb that no matter what, if you put that in a movie, if you run that in any movie, that there's a timer. No matter what that is, a deadline, a character coming, you're invested immediately because you feel the sense of dread and you feel that sense of timing. And so that was a smart thing to do, to start hooking in characters or people to the show, because nothing more they can do. The timeline is about to be broken. Your clock, your running clock that you showed at the beginning is about to get annihilated. So your obvious question is what happens next? Yeah. And so that's why I think it was a great ending to the show. But, comparing it to WandaVision and comparing it to, because that's the common thing that people do, comparing it to Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision, I would say WandaVision to me had the slower start. Yeah. Lots of intrigue, right? Lots of things to sort of bait you in. But if you weren't invested after episode 2, I famously tweeted that I don't know if it was going to be any good, and I was wrong. I'll eat crow on that. But WandaVision started off slow, and to me, I didn't like it. I heard about how slow it was, and I skipped the first 3 episodes because I heard how slow it was. Yeah, I was like, well, I'll just watch a recap and then start it from when it gets good. Yeah, and the payoff wasn't that, the payoff was great, but it wasn't. I had said if they had started episode 3 the way that episode 3, because episode 3 finally pulled the curtain back on what you were watching, and it was more entertaining to see why it was the way it was. Yeah. And so I could buy the first 2 episodes if I already knew what I was looking at. What was coming, yeah. Right. So that's what I didn't like. And so comparing the first 2 episodes, Loki is superior to the WandaVision in the first 2 episodes. Falcon and Winter Soldier is a different type of show. A little bit more grounded. It kind of had to start a little slow, just to get you into it. So even thinking about how it started, so it started like that. So I think honestly, and I'm pretty sure I read that it's the top rated streaming show that they've had so far, like more than WandaVision so far in terms of the first 2 episodes.
That's interesting.
I think with the movies coming back, people are now interested again, and not that people weren't interested in WandaVision, but it had such it had such mixed reviews those first 2 episodes that I don't think the casual fan really watched it until later.
Mm-hmm.
And even then they binged it, and it's a little easier to binge when you're not going week to week. Because
I could easily see that show being like 3 years, 4 years down the line, like, wow, that show was really godlike, and we you know what I mean? Like, I could see it getting a lot of praise the longer it's out, especially because the way that Marvel's building these shows, you can rewatch these and still be invested in all these stories. You can rewatch it from Iron Man. You know what I mean? It could be a thing where you started from Iron Man and watch all the way through Loki right now. You know what I mean? Like, and piece it together, or do it like some people do it, where they put the movies in chronological order of how they went in the actual movie event and watch it like that. You know what I mean? So
yeah, no, I mean it's worth rewatching, and I've done some of that. I haven't watched the whole thing, but I have sort of seen it from a different lens now. When I rewatch a couple of the movies, some of those details are better now that I know what the outcomes are. But yeah, I mean, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, those again, that had to be the way it had to be, and it wasn't moving the character forward other than the reveal of Falcon as Captain America in the end. I think that's what it had to do, because there was a lot of questions, right, as to, okay, Cap gave him the shield, and so he's just the Captain America all of a sudden. He has to struggle to get there, and he has to find his purpose to be Captain America, and I think that's what that show really did set up. It didn't set up much more than that. But shifting gears, and then we'll close it out. So shifting gears, and I just wanted to bring this up really briefly. Black Widow, the reviews.
All right. I haven't seen any, so let me know.
So the early reviews, it's got a spoiler embargo and all that stuff, and it has to, because the reason I think there's trouble with Black Widow is, if you think about it, we're 3 weeks out, and it's been seen, and the early reviews are not as favorable in terms of like everyone hands down bowing to the Church of Marvel. I think they, you know what the problem is I think Black Widow had to justify why it needed a movie. Yeah. And from what I've read and what I've heard, and some of these guys who've seen it already, is that it didn't justify having a movie. And now I'm a little worried, because it's the first one I'm going to go see in IMAX, and I feel like I'm going to waste my money, but I'm still going to go and still watch it. But
I can see why they have a problem. Because, I mean, we're so far removed from Endgame now. She's already been dead, and now the one thing I did find out, or like heard about the movie, is that it takes place between like Civil War and like Infinity War, I believe. Like in between that gap, maybe I'm mistaken, but it's just a weird placed movie, and it's a movie that we should have got like a long time ago. I mean, even before the pandemic hit, we should have had seen this movie already. So I can see why, because it doesn't, unless there's like a extra credit scene that continues the story forward past her death, it really doesn't add anything to the overall Marvel picture other than giving us a Black Widow movie.
Right. And there's some talk that they're focusing more on this other secondary character. I think it's her sister. And I think my guess is that she becomes the new version of a Black Widow in the MCU, which is fine. Yeah. And that may be the purpose for this Black Widow movie, is to sort of say these characters now move on, right? Yeah. Once Natasha's dead, once the Black Widow's dead, these 2 characters or these 3 characters, whoever shows up, will be now, now you can weave them into the MCU. So I think that might be its purpose, but people are just saying there was a lot to live up to, and the wait was so long. There's a couple of movies out right now, not out, but like a couple of movies that have trailers and things that that you're like, why didn't it come out already? You know, I think Free Guy, I think, is that the one with Ryan Reynolds?
Yeah.
There's like 6 trailers, and you get nothing out of those 6 trailers. And that's what I'm saying. That's the danger in these movies being held back so long, is you're already like lost the enthusiasm.
Yeah, you're already giving out all the. I mean, that's people's biggest complaints when they see a trailer too many times, or there's too much info in the trailer. It's like, oh, I already seen that in the trailer, or they let that go in the trailer. So I mean, it's just a detriment. I was confused though, because I felt like Black Widow came out, honestly, until you brought it up earlier this week. I was like, didn't that movie come out already? Right. So like even that, like that might have to. I think that's why it's getting these bad reviews, because it's just out of place right now.
Exactly, and it doesn't make sense in the timeline. They're not going to, again, unless they explain how that character still lives beyond Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
What more is there? And like I said, the only good thing I can think of is they're taking her family and using them in the MCU, which there's a lot of focus on that other actress who's in the family, who may be the future, and that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
So again, I just wanted to talk about that briefly because it was on my mind this week, and I saw the reviews, and I was like, wow. And I've just found it odd that it was so far ahead of the release of the movie that either Marvel thinks that they've got a winner here, or they overplayed their hand. And I think,
or they're trying to just build hype for it because they don't think it's a winner.
Yeah, it's not Endgame. Like they did this with Endgame, and no, they didn't do this with Endgame in terms of reviews, but like the 2 weeks leading up to Endgame were insane.
Yeah.
Or Infinity War 2. But those weeks were like Super Bowl weeks. Like a trailer, a TV spot hit, and everyone had a review. But that was like that was an event I don't think we're ever going to see again. I don't think. Anyway, we can have a whole discussion on the Endgame event, because that to me was just amazing. All right, man. Let's wrap it up here. All right, so we did our Loki episode 2 recap. Let us know what you thought in the comments. Let us know if you agree with some of our theories. What are some of your theories? If you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to become a member of the Llama Nation. That means that my videos will appear more on your YouTube feed. And if you really like this stuff, hit that little bell notification. You'll know exactly when we drop videos, exactly when new content hits the thing. Remember, when we got
live.
Right, exactly. Or when we go live. Now, we've got a lot of cool things happening. Me and AD will be doing more of these on a weekly basis. We're working on Loki this week and the next couple of weeks. And then we'll be moving on to the next series, and so on and so forth. And a lot of big things coming from this channel. Remember, you got Big Llama Reacts, which we're going to talk about music and other sort of current event stuff. And that'll be featuring Little Llama, which, again, he's new to the channel, and he actually got the bug for this. So we're going to be featuring him quite a bit. And he's already picked out 6 different ideas for 6 different songs he wants me to review, because I'm old and I don't know these things. All right. Well, listen, I'm the Big Llama. AD, you got any parting shots, anything you're plugging away?
No, man, I appreciate you having me on your channel again. I'm excited to continue to do this. Happy Father's Day. And let's continue to watch Loki and bring the people more content.
All right, no problem. AD, thank you so much for joining me. Once again, I'm the Big Llama. This is the Big Llama Show. Peace out.